All right, perfect. All right. So it is qualified income trust. We have income twice, so you guys can know income trust, and special needs trust. So these are together today because they are similar. They cover two different things, but they're very similar. So that's why I put them together. I did say last time that this is one of my favorite trust topics. However, they're all amazing. They're all good, and we should all know them, right? All right. So our estate and legacy planning webinar series for tonight is about qualified income trust and special needs trust. Do you guys like my hat? I decided on the hat because the light was like shining on my head. I hope you guys like it. All right. So what do we believe? Why do we do this? First things first, it is the SG Firm's Legacy Foundation, our nonprofit that is a part of the firm that host and sponsor these webinars on anything legacy, anything estate planning, because that's what the foundation is here for, to make sure that we educate, we empower, and we elevate the community to make the decisions and to be informed, to make to do what they have to do for themselves, their families, and those that they love. But what we always say, we believe that planning is power, knowledge is power. If each one were to teach one, we can all get it. So you can say it with me: planning is power, knowledge is power. Each one teach one, and let's all get it. All right, let's go. So we always want to make sure if we're talking about a topic, we have to let you know what are the benefits. Why is it even important for us to be talking about trust? Well, you see that there's a circle of benefits when it comes down to creating a trust, having a trust, and there's no one special person or group of people. It is a tool that is here for everyone to use, and that is why we have this series. So you can know what type of trust, what's the purpose of the trust. All right, so asset management, reducing tax liability, no delays in financial support. So if you're already providing financial support for someone, or you're supporting an organization, a church, no delay in those in that support, so that it can continue even if you were to be incapacitated or pass away. Care for special needs, which we're going to talk about today in detail. Protect the beneficiary, so the person that's going to receive, or the organization that's going to receive from your trust, from poor decisions, if they're not that well with finances yet, or from being preyed on by those who now know that they have access to whatever it is that you're leaving for them. Protecting assets from creditors. We discussed that in a previous session about how that has to be created and what type of trust you'd have to create for that. Because it's not just automatic, right? Anyone who's been here, you know it's not just automatic. All right. So tax efficient charitable intent. So those organizations you're a part of, your church, any nonprofit organization, you want to be able to provide that benefit, but make sure that there's tax benefits as well. Creating multi-generational transfer of wealth. I think that this is my favorite, just to say, and it's right next to the picture of the generations, but multi-generational transfer of wealth is a big deal. A lot of times we've worked so hard, and like I always refer to it, our wonderful pot of assets is full, but we never stop to make the designation of who's supposed to get this, where does this go, and how should it be dealt out, that all of those assets end up going somewhere where you never intended, not benefiting who you would have wanted to benefit. And it all is for what purpose, right? All right. Also, planning for incapacity. Trust allow you to not just worry about when you pass away, but if God forbid you were to become incapacitated, you cannot make the decisions anymore. Paying those bills, making sure the bills are paid, making sure that groceries can still come on, lights are still on, the roof is still over your family's head. Those are important things for all of us. Retirement planning and business security. So these are a lot of benefits, but it's not all of the benefits that you get with the trust. All right. General information, usually how do you even create a trust? So this is just basic. You create it in your will. So for someone who decide they want to create a will, You can have a testamentary trust, meaning it's created after you pass away. Or you can, straight out say, hey, call it, when I do consultations, they're calling, they're saying, I want to protect the assets. I don't want it to go to court. So what do I do? And we create a trust. However, one trust, you can create multiple outside of that. So that's awesome. Through your insurance, if you have insurance for someone else, so it's not directly for you, even whole life, whatever insurance you have, you can create a trust through your insurance and also through contract. All right, what are we going to discuss tonight? We are discussing qualified income trusts, special needs trusts, but particularly how they're created, their purpose, and the benefits of both of these trusts. Ooh, that's not good. I froze. Okay, you guys hear me? We're good. We're good. Okay, I saw I froze for a moment. All right, so creation. I put one, I'm going to talk about creation, and this is for both special needs and qualified income, okay? So who can create a special needs trust? Who can create a qualified income trust? You, the individual, can create it for yourself, or a third party, meaning a parent for a child for their adult parent, friend, family, anyone can create it on behalf of a beneficiary. When is it created? So if we're talking about a qualified income trust or a special needs trust, when do you create it? You can create it while you're still alive. And also you can create it, just like we discussed, in a will, where it's testamentary, or even within a trust. After I pass away, I want these things to be in place. Who can be a beneficiary to a special needs or qualified income trust? It can be your child, your parent, a family member, or a friend. So you can create it for any individual that you directly know, and you're creating that benefit for them. Now, what's the purpose? So we have these trusts. What is the purpose? The main purpose for a qualified income and a special needs trust, because remember, we're now talking about those people that we should be protecting, right? Our elderly and our children, or our disabled, those with special needs. It's always those who need a little bit more assistance. So that's who we have in mind, right? For those of us that are in our 30s, 40s, you're now in a position where you're probably helping your parents a lot with their decision making, with their finances. Some of our parents, they're real independent, but you kind of realize that, okay, they're not considering everything, right? So this is where it comes in, where tonight comes in, why tonight is important. It is basically used to allow financial maintenance without the income being counted against them. So whether it's an individual who received usually supplemental government benefits, so Medicare, Medicaid, if for the rest of their lives where they are, they will now benefit from supplemental income or any benefit the government provides. That's when you're now not just focusing on a general trust, you're not focusing on a will, because having a will only, and you have a elderly parent, or you have a child who's maybe disabled, they can still be functional, but they're listed under having a disability, they get any income. You have to understand, if you go ahead and leave just a lump sum of money to any of these individuals, or if they make money from any particular way, and that's counted towards income towards them, they lose the benefit. And that, I think, is one of the greatest unknown information that has affected so many communities. Doesn't matter what your race is, your religion, but those that are here in the United States of America who can qualify for benefits, to lose those benefits because the government has this number in their mind, and they say, once you pass this number, you're no longer qualified. But we all know that that amount, even if you're making $3,000, right? Fixed income, making $3,000 a month, and you're disabled or you're elderly, that's not enough to pay for your medical bills or any of the concerns that you have. However, according to the government, it is. It's something that will be counted against you. So that's why it's very important for us to understand that this applies to individuals, doesn't matter their age, who are going to benefit from supplemental government benefits. You want to make sure you do not have too much income. This is what we're going to discuss, how to not have too much income. Okay, the PowerPoint went out. Good. Okay. All right, we're good. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys some facts. This is just to help you understand the internet. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Can you guys hear me? I know I'm frozen, but I know sometimes you can still hear the person even if they're frozen. All right. All right. So I know you can hear me. I'm moving again. So as of 2019, in most states, which we're going to discuss the different states, in most states, the Medicaid monthly income limit, and they usually use, the poverty rate and all of that. They basically says that for a single individual, it's 3% of the federal benefit rate / poverty rate. Do you guys see that number? That's $2,313. So that means if you have any income above $2,313, even if it's $14, you no longer qualify. Your family member or you no longer qualify for supplemental government benefits. So this is a big deal. Now, it's not every state who even allow you to have a trust. So that's something when you call, that's a question that we're going to ask if you tell us your purpose is for a special need or qualified income or an elderly parent or a child or family that have that. So that's the question we're going to ask you. One, what is your purpose for creating this trust? And then what state are you in? Because as we can see here, let's move this out the way. As we can see here, as of 2019, there are some states where you cannot have what we call the Miller Trust, which is an AKA, and I'm going to go over all of the AKAs because you are also known as that. You may be in a different state. So I don't know where you're logging in from, but I want to make sure that we cover as much as we can for all of our viewers. All right. So what I'm talking about, the trust, the qualified income trust, that is available in the states listed here. So we see it's a good number of states. We have Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, New Mexico, Texas, Wyoming. The states are there, right? Let us know if you want a copy of this PowerPoint, because it is very, very important to know, one, what qualifies to you, because let's say that your state isn't listed here. I guess your next question is that, well, what do I do? I still want to make sure that we don't lose the benefit. So what do I do? All right, let's go to our next page. Okay, so just so you can know in your state or where you are, what do they refer to this as? And even in the same state, a lot of times it's just whichever name you use based on the provider. So we have Medicaid Income Only Trust is one name. We have Income Assignment Trust, Income Cap Trust, Miller Trust, and a D4B, okay? So any of these names, they all mean the exact same thing of what we're discussing in this webinar. All right. So what about those states where they don't allow a Miller Trust? They don't allow the qualified income trust. For those states, they usually have what is called the spend down provision. You have to spend down your income. So if you make over the $2,313, you have to show that whatever the excess is being used towards something else, not you, not for your, and it can go towards medical as well. Even if you're paying down medical, you can show you're paying down medical, but it's called the spend down provision. So if your state was enlisted, in your mind, you're saying, okay, I get qualified income, I get the benefit, I get the purpose. How do I find that in my state? Spend down provision is going to be yours, okay? So basically says once you spend down your excess money, you now qualify for supplemental government benefits, okay? Another thing that we need to know about the qualified income trust and any trust that you create that provides this benefit, that Medicaid, in some states, not all, Medicaid is listed as a beneficiary. I know a lot of us don't like to hear that, but it doesn't prevent you. It doesn't prevent you. And I do want to say this, it does not prevent you from being able to say for that parent, that child, that the assets, the money that you put in the trust can still be used for their maintenance. It can be used for education. It can be used on their behalf. The main thing is, and that's the language that we put in our trust when we're creating it for our clients, the main thing is that the language has to reflect that the beneficiary has no control over the assets themselves. So the assets within the trust, the beneficiary can't just, pull the money out and go ahead, go on a shopping spree, because then that's your income, right? I can count it. The government can count it towards you. So that's the main thing that we don't want. We want to make sure if someone prepared one for you, or for those individuals, you go online and you go through one of those online providers to create your own trust, you have to make sure the language is very specific, that it's identifying that this income can be used for your benefit. However, it is not yours. You do not have full control over it. It also cannot be in a revocable trust. Remember, we discussed that. And if you don't know what that means, you have to go back to one of our previous sessions so you can hear the discussion on revocable versus irrevocable trust, meaning irrevocable, which is what you need for a qualified income trust, and a spendthrift in a special needs trust is once I've made it, that's it. So the decisions that I've said, the benefits, all of that, that's it. I'm not going to change it. I can't change it. It is what I said it is in the trust. Okay. So that's where we are with our qualified income trust. We know the purpose. We know why it's awesome, why we need it, and what we're preventing from happening with that, right? All right. So for our special needs, all of those things apply. So all those things apply. You make sure that it's an irrevocable trust. The purpose is the same. Prevent that child or family member from receiving income that can prevent them from getting the supplemental benefits. Because come on, raise your hand. We all know that medical bills, they go sky high so fast before you can even imagine, before you can finish paying this one off. When the rest come in, you'd go bankrupt. So if this is not in place, the little amount that you have, even if you're making six figures, to be able to pay the necessary medical needs for an elderly family member, if they don't, if they don't have private insurance and, tons and tons of money, it can bankrupt individuals. It can take the roof over individuals' heads. And we don't want that, especially as a parent. So when we start talking about special needs, these are mostly parents that create it on behalf of their children, even when their children is relatively self-sufficient. But that they're qualified or listed as disabled, that will affect them with their supplemental benefits. So what are some of the things? Autism, diminished capabilities, any disability. I hope you guys can hear. Okay, perfect. So just to repeat it, just in case, this includes any disability. So if they have already been determined disabled through any government, federal, or state determination, autism, diminished capabilities, anything like that, even if they're self-sufficient, you have to make sure there is not too much income coming to them at any one time. So even when they're working, so for those of us who have our adult children who, like some adult children, they can still get jobs. They may have their own vending machine in federal buildings. They can work at the checkout line and they're making some income. We have to make sure that that income is going into a trust. It's going into a place where it is not going to be counted as income towards them. A lot of our parents, they continue working or they have their investments that's coming in, but guess what's happening? The investments are coming directly into their bank account. All of their Social Security benefits, they're coming to their bank account. So once that goes up, the benefits come down. We don't want that. We want to make sure that we know this is the number $2,313 at this point. So $2,313 is where we are. I usually say $2,300 or $2,000 just to be safe. You need to make sure that they're not losing their benefits. And I say that this one is very serious because the fallback and the fallout from not knowing this information is, I mean, it's crazy. I've heard the stories. We've been a part of it, and I don't want anybody to suffer from this anymore because they literally don't know what to do next. Okay. So even if anyone receives something in the mail from Medicaid saying you no longer qualify because of your income, you can turn around and still create that trust even now. So that's not a problem. All right. So we always close out with our mistakes to avoid. So we don't want these mistakes, our do's and our don'ts. We don't want that. First things first, every time, doesn't matter what it is, not knowing the purpose of your trust. You have to know why you're creating a trust. You have to know what is this legacy about? What are you protecting? What are you saving? Who is it for? What is your beneficiary circumstances at the time that you're creating the trust? Because you can always, add to it, but think about where they are now and what will happen in the future. For example, for those of us with minor children, you don't want them to have full access to all of the assets you have in that trust immediately, not only because of special needs and qualified income, but because they may not be mature enough to handle all of those assets. So you can do the gradual disbursement of, a lump sum here, percentages up until they turn 35 or 40, whatever your thing is, or 25. But let's know the purpose of our trust, right? We're going to know the purpose of our trust. All right. Not identifying all possible sources of income. Now, I don't even have to tell you, after our discussion just now about our qualified income trust and our special needs trust, you definitely know why it is very important that you identify all of your possible sources of income. No question. And also not funding your trust. So for our special needs trust, a lot of time that comes into play after you pass away, right? So the source that will fund it, you just identify that source. So it isn't something you have to do right now. That can be done afterwards, because you're still taking care of that person right now while you're alive. So that's not a problem. But you don't want to forget to identify the trust and to have it funded immediately so that it doesn't have to go through probate, right? We don't want court. We don't want that headache. We don't want all of those fees, right? Okay. Trying to keep us in the know, right? Trying to make sure we're saving enough and giving great information so we don't make mistakes. No mistakes. And last, but definitely not least, not informing our trustees. Remember, those are the individuals. So if it's an irrevocable trust for qualified income or special needs, the individual beneficiary, if you're creating it for yourself, you definitely should not list yourself as the trustee, because then you have control over the income. So that individual that you trust to make these decisions, make sure they know that you've listed them down as a trustee. Guardians. So for those of us with minors and we have our trust that we've created, even if it's not a qualified income, all of the other trusts that we talk about in the series, you need to let the guardians know that you have selected them to take care of your children if anything were to happen to you, right? Representatives in your will, like we say, in all of our trusts, we always create a pour over will because you never know what someone may leave you. So we put that in all of our trusts. And beneficiaries. You don't have to tell the beneficiary what you've left for them, but you definitely want them to know that you've created this important legal document and they should be referring to that document once anything happens to you, right? All right, so we got it. We're not making mistakes. We now know what a qualified income trust is. We know why it's important. We know how it's created and why we would be calling the SG law firm, right, to get it done. Also, our special needs trust. So now, do we have any questions? Question time. Questions, comments, concerns. Let's put it in the Q&A and I'll stop sharing. Let's put it in the Q&A or the chat. I hope you guys can hear me. Okay. Q&A? I don't see any questions. What about in the chat? Okay. All right. How was it? Did anyone learn anything new? Are we going to implement these things? Are we going to start writing down our notes to get it done? What's going on? Let us know. Let us know. All right, Shakita, I don't see any questions. I think we did an amazing job in providing this information. What do you, oh.
So
okay,
we actually do have a question.
I just
Someone
saw it.
said, so yeah.
All right, so.
Yeah, someone does. Someone said, how does a person know? Yeah, I think we're overlapping.
All right. So the way that you know
question?
if you qualify for a special needs trust is if you have been designated. So not designated, if there's been any diagnosis, if there's any disability, so even being injured, or like I mentioned, autism, if there's any I keep on saying government, but medical diagnosis that's letting you know that your child or you yourself, you already qualify. So that's one of, I think, the biggest things. If you already qualify for supplemental government benefits, then you will definitely be an individual who either falls under special needs or qualified income trust. So usually it's when there's been a medical diagnosis, then you will definitely have be qualified for a special needs trust, or your child or family member. Did that answer your question? Anyone else? Good, great question. Great question. You definitely need to know whether you qualify, and then at what age should you say? Okay, so at what age? This is a great question. At what age should you establish this for a child? You should definitely establish it as soon as possible. Why? Because over the past year, we have recognized that things happen, right? COVID and just everything around us show us that we just can't determine how long we're going to be here, whether we're going to be incapacitated or anything like that. So once you have an opportunity to create it, it doesn't matter the age of the child. Once the child qualifies as special needs, then you would create the trust. You don't have to fund it immediately. You will put in there that it will be funded upon you passing away or becoming incapacitated, and you will just identify the source of income. So if it's going to be an insurance policy or, a specific bank account that you put money into for this specific trust for your child, then you just identify where the funds will be coming from, but you can create it at any time. There's no special age. Awesome question. Good job, guys. Anyone else? Any other questions? I know some people can be typing. They may be typing right now. All right, here we go. What is the likelihood that the trust will need to be updated? Okay, so the likelihood that your trust will need to be updated will only be if there is a change in the source of income. But if you've already created, so let's say we create the trust, right? And you've identified that it's going to be this policy, unless, and usually it's going to be a whole life policy. But if it's going to be this insurance policy or this bank account, then you will continue to make sure that that account is available if anything were to happen to you. Now, if for some reason it's no longer available, then you would just add an amendment to the trust stating that it has to be done. My experience, very rarely do my clients have to amend their trust unless they come into some money and they just need to, add a source of income. But usually it's not very likely that you'd have to amend it. We suggest that you review it every 2 to 5 years, because life just changes and you may have more children and you need to add a child or something like that, add beneficiaries to the trust. But outside of requesting that you review it every 2nd or 5th year, you don't really have to amend because of huge things. We make our trust very detailed and to cover even anticipated things. So that's one thing that we pride ourselves in. So that's why we don't have much amendments. Awesome question. Anyone else? All right, we have more time. We have 7 more minutes for questions or comments that anyone would have before we rock it out, right? Before we dance it out. We got 7 more minutes. Any other questions? I love the questions. You guys are, I think, asking questions that others are thinking, and that will help a lot of people. So thank you for your questions. Anyone else? If not, we're going to get the music going. I am so happy that you all joined. Oh, before I forget, I am so happy that you all joined, and we want to always show you our contact information. So the name of our website, the name of the firm. Like I said, it's the SG Legacy Foundation that presents all of our webinar series on legacy and estate planning. This is our phone number. We also have our toll-free number, 877-45-LEGACY. Okay. Everybody's still on. It cut me off. It's very spotty. I'm traveling right now, but we had to be here live for our last webinar for 2021. But January 2022, we are going to start on Power of Attorneys, and it's going to be amazing, right? So we shared that our website, just go to www.thesgfirm.com, and you will have all of our social, phone number, email. You'll get the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything, okay? And YouTube, I remember this time, YouTube is SG Firm Law, all right? So thank you all so much. I don't know if my internet is going to allow me to even share the music, but let's see. Let's see what we can do. Oh, here it is. It's already here. It's ready for us. Can you guys hear it? No? No? No music? Trying to. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's my internet. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining us, and we appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of your 2021.
Yes, thank you guys.
And enjoy yourselves. Thank you for joining us. I'm Attorney J.
I'm Chiquita.